The wind carried dust devils across the empty plain when Liam Eckhart spotted the woman sitting alone outside the abandoned line shack, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs on what he would later learn was her 23rd birthday. He reined in his sorrel mare, squinting against the afternoon sun that blazed over the New Mexico territory, and felt something shift in his chest at the sight of her obvious distress. The year was 1881, and in all his 26 years riding these rough lands, he had never seen anyone look quite so lost. "Madam," he called out, keeping his distance so as not to startle her. "You all right out here?" She looked up, and he saw tear tracks cutting through the dust on her cheeks. Her dark hair had come loose from its pins, falling in tangled waves around a face that would have been pretty if not for the raw grief written across it. Her dress was torn at the hem, and she clutched a small carpetbag like it was the only thing tethering her to earth. "I am fine," she said, but her voice cracked on the words, betraying the lie. Liam dismounted slowly, keeping his hands visible. He had learned long ago that frightened people needed to see you meant no harm. "Name's Liam Eckhart. I work the ranch about 5 miles east of here. This line shack belongs to the outfit I ride for." She wiped at her face with the back of her hand, trying to compose herself. "I apologize for trespassing. I will leave." "Now, hold on," he said gently. "I did not say you had to go. Just wondering if you need help. Hillsboro is a good 10 miles south, and it will be dark soon." She looked at him for a long moment, and he could see her weighing whether to trust him. Finally, her shoulders sagged. "My name is Katherine Donnelly. I was traveling to Hillsboro with a wagon train, but they left me behind this morning." "Left you behind?" Liam felt anger spark in his gut. "What kind of people abandon a woman alone in the middle of nowhere?" Katherine's laugh was bitter. "The kind who believe the lies a man tells about you. The wagon master's son took an interest in me that I did not return. When I rejected him, he told everyone I had stolen from his family. They did not even let me defend myself before they made me get down from the wagon." Liam cursed under his breath. He had seen enough of the world to know that men like that existed, men who would ruin a woman's reputation rather than accept rejection. That is a hell of a thing to do to someone, especially today of all days. She looked at him with surprise. "How did you know?" "Lucky guess," he said, though in truth he had seen the small Bible in her hands, open to a page where someone had written her birth date in careful script. Nobody should spend their birthday alone and crying in the dirt. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "I am 23 today. This morning I woke up thinking perhaps this year would be different, that I was finally going somewhere better. My parents died last year of fever back in Missouri, and I have been working as a seamstress just to survive. I saved every penny to join that wagon train, to start fresh in a place where nobody knew me as the orphan girl. And now I have nothing again." Liam felt that shift in his chest again, deeper this time. He knew about loss, about starting over. His own parents had died when he was 15, killed in a Comanche raid that had left him with scars both visible and hidden. He had survived by learning to be harder than the land, tougher than the men he worked alongside. But something about Katherine's pain touched a part of him he had thought long dead. "You have got more than nothing," he said firmly. "You have got today, and you have got tomorrow. And right now, you have got me, and I am going to make sure you get to celebrate your birthday proper." She stared at him, like he had spoken in a foreign tongue. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Liam said, making a decision that would change both their lives, "that I am going to ride back to the main ranch house, gather some supplies, and come back here. We will have ourselves a birthday celebration, even if it is just the two of us." "You do not have to do that," Katherine protested, but he could hear the hope creeping into her voice. "I know I do not have to," he said, "but you deserve to celebrate today, and I aim to make sure you do." He swung back up onto his mare, looking down at Katherine with a seriousness that surprised even himself. "There is a creek about 100 yards north of here, and the shack should still have some basic furniture inside. Make yourself comfortable, and I will be back before sunset. I give you my word." "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked, her voice small. "You do not even know me." Liam considered the question, then answered with the truth. "Maybe because I know what it is like to have the world take everything from you. Maybe because I remember what it felt like when someone showed me kindness when I needed it most. Or maybe because it is your birthday, and that ought to mean something." He touched the brim of his hat and turned his mare east, kicking her into a gallop. As he rode away, he glanced back once and saw Katherine still standing there, watching him go with an expression of disbelief and fragile hope. The ride to the ranch house took him nearly an hour, his mind racing the whole way. What was he doing? He barely knew this woman, and yet he had promised her a birthday celebration like they were old friends. But something about finding her there, alone and heartbroken on what should have been a happy day, had struck a chord deep in his soul. He could not just ride away and leave her to her misery. The ranch house came into view, a sprawling adobe structure surrounded by corrals and outbuildings. The outfit he worked for, the Double T Ranch, ran cattle across 20,000 acres of New Mexico territory. Liam had been working here for 3 years, ever since he had drifted down from Colorado, and he had proven himself a capable hand. The foreman, a grizzled old cowboy named Wade Morris, trusted him enough to let him work alone most of the time. Wade was in the barn when Liam rode up, checking on a mare that was due to foal any day. He looked up with surprise as Liam dismounted in a hurry. "Thought you were checking the North Line shacks today," Wade said. "I was," Liam replied. "Found someone at the old shack, a woman who got left behind by our wagon train. She is stranded out there with nothing." Wade's expression darkened. "Left behind? On purpose?" "Seems so. I told her I would help her." Liam paused, then added, "It is her birthday today, Wade. She is sitting out there alone on her birthday after losing everything. I want to do something nice for her." The old foreman studied him for a long moment, and Liam could see him putting pieces together. "You are fixing to help this girl more than just giving her a ride to town, are you?" "I just want to make sure she has a decent birthday," Liam said, but even he could hear how that sounded. Wade sighed, but there was a glint of something like approval in his eyes. "You always did have a soft heart under all that leather, boy. What do you need?" "Flour, sugar, eggs if we have them, some coffee, maybe some bacon. Anything that could make a decent meal." Liam hesitated. "I'm thinking of baking a cake if I can manage it." Wade's eyebrows shot up. "A cake? You know how to bake a cake?" "My mother taught me before she died," Liam admitted. It was not something he had shared with many people. Cowboys were not supposed to know their way around a kitchen, but his mother had insisted her son learn to fend for himself properly. "It has been years, but I remember the basics." "Well, I will be damned," Wade said, shaking his head with a small grin. "All right, boy, let us see what we can gather up for you. But you be careful, you hear? Strange woman alone in the wilderness, could be she is running from trouble. Or running from people who made trouble for her," Liam countered. "Either way, she deserves a chance." They went to the ranch kitchen, where the cook, a Mexican woman named Rosa, who had been with the outfit for 20 years, listened to Liam's story with increasing interest. When he finished, she immediately started pulling supplies from the pantry. "You will need baking powder," she said, setting items on the counter. "And butter, real butter, not just lard. Here, take this vanilla too. Cannot make a proper cake without vanilla." She worked quickly, packing everything into a large canvas sack while muttering in Spanish about men who would abandon a woman on her birthday. She added a pot and a mixing bowl, some plates and forks, and a small jar of strawberry preserves. "For the cake," she explained, "between the layers, and take this tablecloth. If you're going to have a birthday celebration, you should do it right." Liam found himself grinning. "Thank you, Rosa. I will pay you back for all this." She waved him off. "You just make sure that poor girl has a good birthday. That is payment enough." Then she fixed him with a stern look. "And you be a gentleman, Liam Eckhart. I know you will, but I say it anyway." "Yes, madam," he said solemnly. Wade helped him pack everything onto his horse, along with some firewood and a couple of blankets. "You planning on staying out there tonight?" the foreman asked. "I cannot very well leave her alone again," Liam said. "I will sleep outside, keep watch. In the morning, I will bring her into Hillsboro, make sure she gets settled proper." Wade clapped him on the shoulder. "You are a good man, Liam. Your folks would be proud." The words hit Liam harder than he expected, and he had to swallow past a sudden tightness in his throat. "I just hope I remember how to bake a cake." The ride back took longer with all the supplies, but the sun was still a hand's width above the horizon when he arrived at the line shack. Katherine had taken his advice and washed up at the creek. Her hair was still damp, braided back from her face, and she had brushed the worst of the dust from her dress. She stood as he approached, her expression uncertain but hopeful. "You came back," she said, and he heard the surprise in her voice. I said I would, Liam replied, dismounting and starting to unload the supplies. And I brought everything we need for a proper birthday celebration. Catherine's eyes widened as she saw the amount of food he had brought. This is too much. You should not have spent so much on me. It is not spending when it is given freely, he said. Now, I am going to attempt something I have not done in about 10 years, and I am going to need your help. Have you ever baked a cake? A few times, she said. I worked in a bakery for a little while before I saved enough to leave Missouri. Good, Liam said, feeling relieved. Because I have the general idea, but I am definitely going to need guidance. They carried everything inside the line shack, which was sparse but clean. There was a small stove, a table with 2 chairs, and a bed frame with a straw mattress. Liam immediately set about getting a fire going in the stove, while Katherine examined the supplies with growing amazement. This is real butter, she said, holding up the wrapped package like it was gold, and vanilla. I have not worked with real vanilla in months. My boss's cook insisted, Liam said, coaxing the fire to life. She said a proper birthday cake required proper ingredients. Katherine looked at him, and there were tears in her eyes again, but this time they looked like tears of gratitude rather than grief. I do not understand why you are doing this for me. You do not know me. I could be exactly what that man said I was. Liam straightened up and met her gaze steadily. I know you are not. I have been around enough people to know the difference between someone who is running from justice and someone who has been treated unjustly. And even if I am wrong, which I am not, everyone deserves to have at least one person treat them with kindness on their birthday. She wiped at her eyes and nodded, trying to compose herself. Then let us bake this cake before I turn into a watering pot again. They worked together as the light outside faded to gold and then to purple. Liam followed Catherine's instructions, measuring flour and sugar while she creamed the butter with a practiced hand. There was something intimate about the work, about standing side by side in the small shack with the smell of wood smoke and vanilla surrounding them. Where did you learn to do this? Katherine asked, as Liam carefully separated eggs, dropping the yolks into one bowl and the whites into another. My mother, he said. She grew up in a big family where everyone had to know how to cook, boys included. My father used to tease her about teaching me kitchen skills, but she said a man who could not feed himself properly was only half a man. She sounds like a wise woman, Katherine said softly. She was, Liam agreed, feeling the familiar ache of loss. She and my father both died when I was 15. Comanche raid on our homestead up in the Panhandle. I was out hunting when it happened. By the time I got back, it was too late. Catherine's hand stilled on the mixing bowl. I am so sorry. That must have been terrible. It was a long time ago, Liam said, though the pain never fully left. But I learned that you keep going, you know? You survive, and you find reasons to keep living. Sometimes those reasons are small, like making sure someone has a birthday cake. They poured the batter into the pot Rosa had provided, which would serve as a makeshift baking pan. Liam settled it carefully into the stove, adjusting the heat to try to get it even. It was not a proper oven, and he had no idea if this would actually work, but he was determined to try. While the cake baked, they prepared a simple meal of bacon and beans, along with coffee that Liam brewed strong and dark. They sat at the small table, eating as the stars began to appear through the open doorway. Tell me about Missouri, Liam said, wanting to keep the conversation going, wanting to hear her voice. What was it like there? Katherine was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. It was home, but it was also hard. My father was a school teacher, my mother a seamstress. We were never wealthy, but we were happy. Then the fever came through town 2 summers ago. It took so many people, including both my parents, within a week of each other. I was 21 and suddenly alone in the world. No other family? Liam asked gently. A few distant cousins back east, but nobody who wanted to take in a grown woman with no money. She took a sip of her coffee. I tried to make it work, but the town was small and there was not enough work. I kept thinking about what my father used to say about the West, about how it was a place where people could reinvent themselves. So I saved every penny until I had enough to join the wagon train. And then that bastard ruined it for you, Liam said, anger flaring again at the injustice of it. His name was Thomas, Katherine said. Thomas Pritchard. He was the wagon master's youngest son, about my age. He started paying attention to me the first week of the journey. At first it was just conversation, but then he started making comments, touching my arm, standing too close. When I told him I was not interested, He got angry. He said I was being ungrateful, that I should be honored by his attention. Liam's jaw tightened. And when you still refused? He told his father I had stolen his mother's jewelry. They searched my belongings, did not find anything, of course, but Thomas said I must have hidden it somewhere along the trail. His father believed him without question. They dumped me and my bag at that line shack this morning and told me I was lucky they were not turning me over to the law. That is beyond wrong, Liam said firmly. When we get to Hillsborough tomorrow, we are going to the sheriff. We are going to tell him exactly what happened. Katherine shook her head sadly. It will not matter. It is my word against theirs, and I am nobody. Thomas's father has money and reputation. Then we will give you reputation too, Liam said. I have worked in this territory for years. People know me, trust me. If I vouch for you, that will count for something. She looked at him with such hope and vulnerability that it made his chest ache. Why are you doing all this? Really? Liam set down his coffee cup and met her eyes directly. Because when I was 15 and alone, someone helped me. An old rancher named John Thatcher found me half-starved and wild with grief. He could have turned me away, sent me to an orphanage, or left me to fend for myself. Instead, he took me in, taught me how to be a cowboy, gave me a purpose when I had none. He died 3 years ago, and I promised myself I would honor his memory by helping people the way he helped me. So this is about paying a debt, Katherine said, and there was something like disappointment in her voice. No, Liam said quickly. It started that way maybe, but it is not just that. Katherine, I know we just met, but I feel like I am supposed to help you. Like finding you today was not just luck. She smiled, a real smile that transformed her whole face. I am glad you found me, Liam Eckhart. Even if the cake turns into charcoal, this is already the best birthday I have had in years. They both laughed at that, and the sound filled the small shack with warmth. Liam checked the cake, testing it carefully with a knife blade. It was not perfect, a bit lopsided and darker on one side than the other, but it was baked through and smelled like heaven. We have to let it cool, Katherine said, before we can add the preserves. While they waited, they talked. Liam found himself telling her stories about his years on the ranch, about the time he had to help deliver twin calves in a thunderstorm, about the ornery Mustang he had spent 3 months gentling, about the beauty of watching the sun rise over the endless plains. Katherine shared memories of her parents, the books her father had loved, the intricate embroidery her mother could create. Time seemed to slip away, marked only by the gradual cooling of the cake and the deepening of the night sky. Finally, Katherine declared the cake ready. She carefully split it into 2 layers and spread the strawberry preserves between them. It was not a fancy bakery cake, but it looked perfect to Liam. I do not have candles, he said apologetically. I do not need candles, Katherine replied. This is already more than I could have hoped for. He cut them each a generous slice, and they ate slowly, savoring every bite. The cake was good, sweet and moist, with the tart strawberries providing perfect contrast. Katherine closed her eyes as she ate, and Liam found himself memorizing the peaceful expression on her face. This is wonderful, she said. Thank you, Liam. Thank you for remembering what today was supposed to be about. Thank you for caring enough to make it special. You deserve to celebrate today, he said, echoing his earlier words. Every year you survive, every year you keep going, despite everything. That deserves to be marked somehow. They finished their cake and cleaned up together, washing the dishes in water Katherine brought from the creek. Liam spread one of the blankets on the floor for her to sleep on, insisting she take the bed. He would keep watch outside, he said, make sure nothing disturbed her rest. You are not worried I will steal your horse and disappear in the night? She asked, but she was teasing now. The earlier sadness lifted from her voice. If you do, I will hunt you down and demand you share that horse, he replied with a grin. But I do not think you will. I think you are going to sleep well tonight, knowing that someone sees your worth. Katherine stepped closer to him, and in the lamplight, he could see that her eyes were the color of honey. I wish I had met you months ago, before everything went wrong. Maybe things would have been different. Maybe we met exactly when we were supposed to, Liam said quietly. For a moment, they just stood there, so close he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. Then Katherine rose on her toes and kissed his cheek, a soft touch that burned like a brand. Good night, Liam, she whispered. And thank you for the best birthday I have ever had." He touched the spot where her lips had been, feeling something shift and settle in his heart. "Good night, Katherine." Liam made his bed under the stars, wrapped in a blanket with his saddle for a pillow. But despite his exhaustion, sleep eluded him. He kept thinking about Katherine, about the way she had looked when she smiled, about the courage it must have taken her to keep going after losing everything. He thought about the kiss on his cheek and the warmth in her eyes when she looked at him. He had known her for less than a day, but already she felt important in a way he could not quite explain. It was not just attraction, though he would be lying if he said she was not beautiful. It was something deeper, a recognition of kindred spirits who had both survived loss and loneliness. Inside the shack, Katherine lay awake as well, staring at the rough wooden ceiling and trying to make sense of everything that had happened. This morning, she had been at her lowest point, abandoned and hopeless. Tonight she had cake and coffee in her belly, a safe place to sleep, and the memory of a kind man's smile. Liam Eckhart was unlike any man she had met before. He was rough around the edges, weathered by the harsh land, but there was a gentleness in him that took her breath away. The way he had looked at her when he said she deserved to celebrate, like it was the most obvious truth in the world, had made something in her chest crack open. She touched her lips, remembering the feel of his stubbled cheek under her mouth. It had been an impulse, but she did not regret it. Whatever happened tomorrow, she would always remember today, her 23rd birthday, when a cowboy had baked her a cake and reminded her that she mattered. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Liam woke with the sun, his body conditioned to early rising after years of ranch work. He checked on the horses first, then heated water for coffee. Katherine emerged from the shack looking rested, her hair braided neatly and her dress straightened as much as possible. "Good morning," she said, and he loved the way her voice sounded, warm and slightly rough from sleep. "Morning," he replied, handing her a cup of coffee. "I hope you slept well." "Better than I have in weeks," she admitted. It felt safe here. They ate a simple breakfast of leftover cake and bacon. Then Liam helped Katherine pack up her few belongings. The ride to Hillsboro would take most of the morning, and he wanted to make sure they arrived while there was still plenty of daylight. "You can ride with me," he said, indicating his horse. "She is strong enough to carry us both." Katherine hesitated. "Are you sure? That seems very forward." "Out here, practical beats proper every time," Liam said with a smile. "Besides, what is a little closeness between friends?" "Are we friends?" Katherine asked, but she looked pleased by the idea. "I hope we are more than that," Liam said honestly. "But we can start with friends if that is what you are comfortable with." He mounted first, then reached down to help Katherine up behind him. She settled against his back, her arms wrapping around his waist, and Liam felt that now familiar shift in his chest. Having her close felt right in a way that defied logic. They rode south toward Hillsboro, taking their time. The landscape rolled past in shades of gold and red, dotted with mesquite and juniper. Hawks circled overhead, and in the distance a herd of pronghorn antelope bounded across the plain. "It is beautiful out here," Katherine said, her voice soft near his ear. "Harsh, but beautiful." "It grows on you," Liam agreed. "When I first came to New Mexico, I thought it was the most desolate place I had ever seen. But the longer you stay, the more you notice the life everywhere, the way things survive and even thrive in conditions that seem impossible." "Like us," Katherine said. "Yeah," Liam replied. "Like us." They talked as they rode, the conversation flowing easily. Katherine asked about his work on the ranch, and Liam found himself describing the daily routine of a cowboy's life with an enthusiasm that surprised him. He had never been one to talk much, preferring to keep his thoughts to himself. But with Katherine, the words came naturally. She told him about her dreams of opening her own dress shop someday, of creating beautiful things for women who wanted to feel special. Her face lit up as she described the patterns she could envision, the fabrics she would use, and Liam found himself caught up in her passion. "You will do it," he said with conviction. "I can tell when someone has the grit to make their dreams real, and you have it." "I want to believe that," Katherine said. "But right now, I do not even have enough money for a week's worth of room and board, let alone a shop." "Then we will figure it out," Liam said. "There has to be work in Hillsboro, and I can help you get started." "You have already done so much," Katherine protested. "I cannot keep taking from you." "You are not taking," Liam said firmly. "I am giving freely, and there is a difference. Besides, I am starting to think that helping you is helping me too." "What do you mean?" she asked. Liam was quiet for a moment, trying to find the right words. "I have been drifting for a long time, Katherine. Ever since my parents died, I have been moving from place to place, never really settling. I work hard, I do my job well, but I have never felt like I had a real purpose beyond surviving another day. Meeting you, it is like something clicked into place. Like maybe I was meant to be at that line shack yesterday, meant to find you and help you, and maybe in helping you, I will find whatever I have been looking for too." Katherine tightened her arms around his waist, and he felt her rest her cheek against his shoulder blade. "I think you might be the best man I have ever met, Liam Eckhart." "I am just a cowboy," he said, but his voice was rough with emotion. "You are so much more than that," she whispered. Hillsborough appeared on the horizon around midday, a sprawling town of adobe buildings and wooden storefronts. It was bigger than Liam had expected, with a main street that boasted a bank, a general store, a hotel, several saloons, and various other businesses. The town had grown up around silver mining in the nearby hills, and though the boom years were past, there was still enough activity to keep it prosperous. Liam rode straight to the sheriff's office, a squat building near the center of town. He helped Katherine dismount, noticing how she squared her shoulders and lifted her chin, preparing herself for whatever came next. The sheriff was a tall man in his 50s with iron gray hair and sharp blue eyes. His name was Daniel Wright, and Liam had met him a few times when bringing in cattle rustlers or dealing with ranch business. "Liam," the sheriff said in greeting, "what brings you to town?" "Found this lady abandoned at one of our line shacks yesterday," Liam explained. "Her wagon train left her behind based on false accusations. I thought you should know about it." Sheriff Wright's expression grew serious as he listened to Katherine tell her story. She spoke clearly and calmly, relating the facts without embellishment. When she finished, the sheriff leaned back in his chair and sighed. "I wish I could say I am surprised, but men like Thomas Pritchard are not uncommon. Problem is, without proof, there is not much I can do legally. If they accuse you of theft and you cannot prove otherwise, my hands are tied." "So he just gets away with it?" Liam demanded. "He ruins her reputation and leaves her stranded, and there are no consequences?" "I did not say that," the sheriff replied mildly. "I said I cannot do much legally, but I can and will make a record of Miss Donnelly's statement. If this Pritchard fellow shows up in my territory again, I will make sure to have a conversation with him about his behavior, and if Miss Donnelly wants to press charges for abandonment, we can pursue that angle." Katherine shook her head. "I just want to move forward with my life. I do not want to spend months caught up in a legal battle I cannot afford." "That is your right," Sheriff Wright said kindly. "But I want you to know that you are welcome in Hillsborough. Far as I am concerned, you are a victim, not a criminal, and I will make sure people know that." They left the sheriff's office and walked down the main street. Liam could feel Katherine's nervousness as people looked at them with curiosity. A stranger in town always drew attention, especially a woman traveling with a cowboy. "Let us find you a place to stay," Liam said. "The hotel should have rooms available." But when they inquired at the hotel, the proprietor, a thin-lipped woman with suspicious eyes, quoted a price that made Katherine blanch. "I cannot afford that," she said quietly. "There is a boarding house on the edge of town," the woman said, her tone making it clear what kind of establishment she thought suitable for Katherine. "Cheaper rates there." Outside, Katherine's shoulders were tight with tension. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. I am a woman alone with no money and no reputation. Nobody respectable will rent to me." "Then we will find somebody who sees sense instead of gossip," Liam said determinedly. He thought for a moment, then smiled. "I have an idea. Come with me." He led her to a small dress shop near the end of Main Street. The sign read, "Madame Rousseau's Fine Dressmaking," and through the window they could see an elegant older woman working at a sewing table. Madame Rousseau looked up as they entered, her expression neutral, but assessing. She was perhaps 60, with silver hair piled elegantly on her head, and the bearing of someone who had seen much of the world. "Good afternoon," Liam said, removing his hat. "My name is Liam Eckhart, and this is Miss Katherine Donnelly. We are hoping you might be able to help us." Madame Rousseau set down her needle and gave them her full attention. "Help you how, Mr. Eckhart?" "Miss Donnelly is new to Hillsborough and looking for work. She has experience as a seamstress and worked in a bakery back in Missouri. She is skilled and hard-working, and I am hoping you might know of opportunities for her." The older woman turned her attention to Catherine, examining her with eyes that missed nothing. "You can sew?" "Yes, madam," Catherine said, her voice steady. "I learned from my mother, who was a seamstress for 20 years. I can do embroidery, alterations, and I have made several dresses from scratch." "Show me your hands," Madame Rousseau commanded. Catherine held out her hands, and the older woman examined them carefully, noting the calluses in the right places, the slight staining from dyes and fabrics. "These are a seamstress's hands," Madame Rousseau said with satisfaction. "Tell me, child, why are you looking for work? Where is your family?" Catherine took a breath and told an abbreviated version of her story, leaving out the worst details, but explaining that she was alone and trying to start over. As she spoke, Liam watched the older woman's expression soften. "I came west 40 years ago," Madame Rousseau said when Catherine finished. "I was running from a bad marriage in New Orleans. I had nothing but the clothes on my back and my sewing skills. I understand what it is to start over." She stood up decisively. "I have been needing help in the shop. The work is steady, but I cannot pay much, at least not at first. You would earn room and board, plus a small wage. There is a room above the shop you could use." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "You would do that for me? You do not even know me." "I know you have good hands and you are trying to make an honest living," Madame Rousseau said. "That is enough for me. Besides," she added with a glance at Liam, "any woman who has Liam Eckhart vouching for her cannot be all bad. I have sold his boss many a shirt, and he always speaks well of his cowboys." "Thank you," Catherine said, her voice breaking. "Thank you so much." Madame Rousseau waved off the gratitude. "Come, let me show you the room. Mr. Eckhart, you may come too, so you can see she will be safe here." The room above the shop was small but clean, with a bed, a washstand, and a window that looked out over the street. It was simple, but more than Catherine had hoped for. "You can start tomorrow," Madame Rousseau said. "Today, you settle in and get yourself sorted out. There is a dress in the back that a customer never picked up. It should fit you well enough. You cannot work in a dress shop looking like you have been dragged through the desert." After Madame Rousseau left them alone, Catherine turned to Liam with wonder in her eyes. "I cannot believe this is happening. Yesterday I had nothing. Today I have a job and a place to live, and a new friend who treats me with more kindness than anyone has in years." "You deserve all of this and more," Liam said. He wanted to reach for her, to pull her into his arms, but he held back, unsure of his welcome. "Are you going to be all right here?" "I think I am," Catherine said. Then, more confidently, "Yes, I am going to be fine. I have to head back to the ranch," Liam said reluctantly. "But I will come to town again soon, maybe this Sunday. I could take you to dinner, if you would like." Catherine smiled, and it was like the sun coming out from behind clouds. "I would like that very much." "Then it is a date," Liam said. He put his hat back on, then paused at the door. "Catherine? I am really glad I found you yesterday. I know the circumstances were terrible, but I cannot help feeling like it was meant to happen." "I feel the same way," she said softly. "Thank you for everything, Liam. Thank you for giving me back my birthday. Thank you for seeing me as something more than a problem to be solved." He wanted to say so much more, wanted to tell her that in one day she had become more important to him than anyone had been in years. But it was too soon, too much. So instead, he just nodded and said, "I will see you Sunday." The ride back to the Double T Ranch felt longer than usual. Liam kept replaying the last 2 days in his mind, analyzing every conversation, every smile, every moment. He had never fallen for someone so quickly, and it scared him a little. What if he was reading too much into their connection? What if she saw him as just a helpful friend and nothing more? But then he would remember the way she had kissed his cheek, the way she had held on to him during the ride, the warmth in her eyes when she looked at him, and he would feel hope bloom in his chest. Wade was waiting when Liam got back, curious about how things had gone. Liam told him everything, and the old foreman listened with a knowing smile. "Boy, you have got it bad," Wade said when Liam finished. "Is it that obvious?" Liam asked. "Only to anyone with eyes," Wade replied. "But I am happy for you. You have been alone too long. A good woman might be exactly what you need." "I barely know her," Liam protested, but even he could hear how weak that sounded. "Sometimes you just know," Wade said sagely. "When I met my wife, God rest her soul, I knew within an hour that she was going to be the most important person in my life. We were married within a month and had 42 happy years together before the consumption took her. Do not waste time doubting when you find something real. The next few days passed slowly for Liam. He threw himself into his work, riding fence lines and checking on cattle, but his mind was never far from Katherine. He wondered how she was settling in, whether Madame Rousseau was treating her well, whether she thought about him as much as he thought about her. Sunday finally arrived, and Liam rode into Hillsborough with his heart beating faster than usual. He had cleaned up as best he could, putting on his newest shirt and brushing the dust from his hat. He felt nervous in a way he had not felt since he was a teenager. Katherine was waiting for him outside the dress shop, and the sight of her took his breath away. She wore the dress Madame Rousseau had given her, a soft blue that matched her eyes, and her hair was pinned up in an intricate style that showed off her graceful neck. "You look beautiful," Liam said, and was rewarded with a blush that colored her cheeks. "You clean up pretty well yourself," Katherine replied with a smile. They walked to the restaurant, a small establishment run by a Chinese family who served both American and Chinese food. Over dinner, Katherine told him about her first week of work. "Madame Rousseau is wonderful," she said enthusiastically. "She is teaching me techniques I never learned from my mother, and she has so many stories about her life. Did you know she made dresses for actresses in New Orleans before she came west?" Liam loved watching her talk, the animation in her face, the passion in her voice. "I am glad you are settling in well." "It is all because of you," Katherine said, reaching across the table to touch his hand. "If you had not found me, if you had not brought me here and vouched for me, none of this would be possible." "You would have figured something out," Liam said. "You are stronger than you think." "Maybe," Katherine allowed, "but I am grateful I did not have to do it alone." After dinner, they walked through the town as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Liam found himself telling Katherine more about his life, stories he had never shared with anyone. He told her about the nightmares he still sometimes had about finding his parents dead, about the years he had spent angry at the world, about how learning to work with horses had slowly taught him patience and peace. Katherine listened without judgment, her hand tucked into the crook of his elbow. When he finished, she said quietly, "You have been through so much, and yet you are still kind, still willing to help a stranger. That takes a special kind of strength." "Or a special kind of stubborn," Liam said with a self-deprecating smile. "I prefer to think of it as strength," Katherine said. She stopped walking and turned to face him. "Liam, I need to tell you something. This week, I have thought about you constantly, about what you did for me. Yes, but also just about you. The way you laugh, the way you look at the world, the way you make me feel safe. I know we have only known each other a week, but I cannot help how I feel." Liam's heart was pounding. "And how do you feel?" "Like I am falling in love with you," Katherine said, her voice trembling slightly. "I know it is too fast. I know it is probably foolish, but it is the truth." "It is not foolish," Liam said, reaching up to cup her face gently. "And it is not too fast, not if we both feel it. Katherine, I have been half in love with you since I saw you sitting alone at that line shack. When you kissed my cheek that night, I knew I was in trouble, and this week has been torture, being away from you, wondering if you were thinking about me too." "I was," Katherine whispered. "Every day." Liam leaned down and kissed her, a soft, sweet kiss that tasted like possibility and promise. Katherine's arms came up around his neck, and for a long moment, the rest of the world faded away. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "I have wanted to do that since the moment I met you," Liam admitted. "Then you should have done it sooner," Katherine said with a laugh. They spent the rest of the evening walking and talking, stealing kisses in the shadows. By the time Liam had to leave to ride back to the ranch, they had made plans to see each other the following Sunday, and the Sunday after that. Over the next few months, their courtship deepened. Liam came to town every Sunday, and sometimes on Saturday evenings too, when his work allowed. They had dinner, took walks, and slowly built a relationship based on mutual respect and growing love. Katherine flourished in her new life. She became an integral part of Madame Rousseau's business, her skill with the needle evident in every piece she touched. Women began requesting her specifically for delicate embroidery work, and her reputation grew. Madame Rousseau, watching the romance blossom between Katherine and Liam, gave her blessing with a knowing smile. "He is a good man," she told Katherine one afternoon. Not many like him left in this world. I know, Katherine said, unable to keep the happiness from her voice. I feel like the luckiest woman alive. By autumn, Liam knew he could not wait any longer. He was 27 years old, and he had found the woman he wanted to spend his life with. The fact that he had known her for less than 6 months did not matter. When you knew, you knew. He talked to Wade about it one evening as they sat on the porch of the ranch house, watching the sun set over the plains. I want to ask Katherine to marry me, Liam said, but I do not have much to offer her. I have some savings, but not enough to buy land of my own or build a house. Wade was quiet for a moment, then said, You remember that parcel of land on the south edge of the property? The 100 acres near the creek? The one the boss has been talking about selling off? Liam asked. That is the one, Wade confirmed. I talked to him about you, told him you were the best cowboy we have ever had, and you were looking to settle down. He is willing to sell you that land at a very fair price, and you can pay him back over time from your wages. Liam stared at the old foreman in disbelief. Are you serious? As serious as a heart attack, Wade said. There is good grazing there, and that creek never runs dry. You could build a house, start a small herd of your own. It would not be much at first, but it would be yours. I do not know what to say, Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. Why would he do that for me? Because you have earned it, Wade said simply. You have been loyal and hard-working for 3 years, and because he believes in helping good people build good lives. So, do we have a deal? Yes, Liam said immediately. God, yes. Thank you, Wade. Thank you for everything. The next Sunday, Liam rode into Hillsboro with a ring in his pocket. It was not fancy, just a simple gold band with a small garnet stone, but he had spent nearly all his savings on it. He found Katherine at the dress shop, putting the finishing touches on a wedding dress for a customer. That is beautiful, he said, watching her work. Katherine looked up with a smile. Thank you, I am proud of this one. The bride is going to look lovely. Speaking of brides, Liam said, his heart hammering, can I talk to you for a minute, somewhere private? Katherine's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. They went upstairs to her room, and Liam suddenly found himself more nervous than he had ever been in his life. Katherine, he began, then stopped, trying to organize his thoughts. I know we have only known each other for 6 months. I know that by any logical standard, that is not enough time. But I also know that I love you more than I have ever loved anyone. I know that every day I spend with you is better than any day I spend without you. I know that I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night for the rest of my life. He pulled out the ring, dropping to one knee. Katherine's hands flew to her mouth, tears already starting to fall. I am just a cowboy, Liam continued. I do not have much to offer except my love and my promise to take care of you and make you happy. But I have a piece of land now, a place where we can build a home and a future. Katherine Donnelly, will you marry me? Yes, Katherine said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes. Liam stood and slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into his arms for a kiss that felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, Katherine was looking at the ring with wonder. It is perfect, she said. Everything about this is perfect. We can have a long engagement if you want, Liam said. I know women like to plan weddings properly. Katherine shook her head. I do not need a long engagement. I have already waited too long to start my real life. Let us get married soon. Next month, maybe? Are you sure? Liam asked, surprised but delighted. I have never been more sure of anything, Katherine said firmly. I love you, Liam Eckhart, and I want to be your wife as soon as possible. They set the date for mid-November, giving themselves 6 weeks to prepare. Katherine, with Madame Rousseau's help, made her own wedding dress, a beautiful creation of ivory silk with delicate lace trim. Liam and some of the other cowboys from the ranch started building a small house on his new land, working in every spare moment. The wedding took place in Hillsboro's small church, officiated by the circuit preacher who came through town once a month. Katherine wore her handmade dress and carried wildflowers that Liam had picked that morning. Liam wore his best suit, purchased specially for the occasion. Madame Rousseau stood as Katherine's witness, while Wade served as Liam's best man. The church was filled with people from town and from the ranch, all come to celebrate the unlikely love story of the cowboy and the seamstress. As they exchanged vows, Liam looked into Catherine's eyes and remembered finding her alone and heartbroken just 6 months earlier. He thought about the birthday cake they had baked together, about the way she had kissed his cheek, about every moment since that had led them to this one. "I love you," he said when it was his turn to speak. "From that first day until my last day, I will love you and honor you and make sure you always know how precious you are to me." Catherine's vows were just as heartfelt. "You saved me," she said, her voice strong despite the tears streaming down her face. "Not just from being alone and scared, but from losing faith in goodness and kindness. You showed me that there are still heroes in this world, and I promise to spend every day of our marriage reminding you that you are mine." When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Liam kissed Katherine with all the love and promise of their future together. The small church erupted in cheers and applause. The reception was held at the ranch, with Rosa preparing a feast that fed everyone who attended. There was music and dancing, and Liam held Katherine close as they swayed to a fiddle tune, both of them grinning like fools. "How does it feel to be Mrs. Eckhart?" Liam asked. "Like everything finally makes sense," Katherine replied. "Like all the hard times and heartbreak led me exactly where I was supposed to be." They spent their wedding night in the new house Liam had built on their land. It was small, just 2 rooms and a loft, but it was solid and warm and theirs. Liam carried Katherine over the threshold, both of them laughing with joy and nerves. "Welcome home," he said, setting her down gently. "Home," Katherine repeated, looking around at the simple furniture, the fireplace Liam had built with his own hands, the windows that looked out over their land. "I love it. I love all of it." That night, they consummated their marriage with tenderness and passion, learning each other's bodies with reverence and joy. Afterward, lying tangled together in their new bed, Katherine traced patterns on Liam's chest and said, "Tell me about that first day again. What you were thinking when you found me." Liam smiled in the darkness. "I was thinking that you looked like you had lost everything. And then I was thinking that I wanted to give you something back, even if it was just one good day. I had no idea that one good day would turn into the rest of my life." "Your mother would have been proud of you," Katherine said softly. "The son she raised, who knows how to bake a cake and how to treat a woman with kindness. She gave you such a gift when she taught you those things." "I wish you could have met her," Liam said, feeling the familiar ache of loss. "She would have loved you." "I wish I could have met her too," Katherine said. "But in a way, I feel like I know her through you. All the best parts of you came from her and your father." They fell asleep, wrapped in each other's arms, the promise of tomorrow and all the tomorrows after stretching out before them like the endless New Mexico sky. The first year of their marriage was not without challenges. The house was small and sometimes leaked when it rained hard. Money was tight as Liam paid back the loan for the land while also trying to build up their herd. Katherine continued to work with Madame Rousseau a few days a week, contributing her earnings to their household. But, despite the hardships, they were happy. They learned to work together, to support each other through difficulties, to celebrate small victories. When Liam bought their first dozen cattle with saved wages, they danced in the kitchen like they had won a fortune. When Katherine sold her first dress commissioned specifically for her, rather than through Madame Rousseau, Liam insisted on taking her to dinner to celebrate. They learned each other's rhythms and routines. Katherine discovered that Liam was grumpy in the mornings until he had his first cup of coffee, but that he turned sweet and talkative in the evenings. Liam learned that Katherine liked to sing while she sewed, that she had a secret sweet tooth for peppermint candy, and that she cried during thunderstorms because they reminded her of the night her parents died. Through it all, their love deepened and matured, moving from the passionate intensity of new romance to the comfortable intimacy of true partnership. On Katherine's 24th birthday, Liam woke her before dawn and led her outside. He had spent the previous week building a surprise, a small workshop attached to the back of their house, complete with a large table, shelves for supplies, and good light from 2 windows. "I know you have been wanting your own space to work," Liam said, as Katherine stood speechless in the doorway. "I thought maybe you could start taking on more of your own commissions, build up your business from home." Katherine burst into tears, overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of the gift. "How did you manage this? When did you find the time?" "Wade helped," Liam admitted, "and a couple of the other boys. They have all seen your work, and they wanted to help. Rosa donated some of the fabric on the shelves to get you started." "I cannot believe you did this," Katherine said, throwing her arms around him. "This is the most wonderful gift anyone has ever given me. You deserve to celebrate today," Liam said, repeating the words he had said to her a year ago. "Every year, I want to make sure your birthday is special." They spent the day together, working side by side. Liam helped Katherine organize her new workspace while telling her about his plans for expanding their herd. Katherine shared her dream of someday opening her own shop in town, though she was quick to say she was perfectly happy with what they had now. That evening, Liam baked another cake, this one much more successful than his first attempt. They ate it by lamplight, feeding each other bites and laughing over the memory of that first desperate cake baked in a line shack. "Do you ever think about how different your life would be if I had not ridden past that day?" Liam asked. Katherine considered the question seriously. "I think I would have survived somehow. I am tougher than I look, but I would not have been happy, not the way I am happy with you. You gave me more than just help that day, Liam. You gave me hope. You gave me back my belief that I deserved good things." "You gave me something too," Liam said. "Purpose, direction. For years I had been just drifting along, doing my job, but not really living. You made me want to build something, to plan for a future, instead of just surviving day to day." They made love that night with a passion tempered by deep affection, and Katherine fell asleep thinking about how lucky she was, how a birthday that had started as the worst day of her life had ended up being the best thing that ever happened to her. Time passed in the way it does when you are content, both quickly and slowly at once. Seasons cycled through their expected patterns. Liam and Katherine built their life together, piece by piece, day by day. By their second anniversary, their herd had grown to 50 head of cattle. Katherine's sewing business was thriving, with women coming from as far as 20 miles away to commission her work. They had saved enough money to add on to their house, building a proper bedroom and expanding the kitchen. Madame Rousseau, now in her mid-60s, began talking about retirement. She approached Katherine one day with a proposal. She would sell Katherine the dress shop in town at a price Katherine could afford, with payments spread over several years. "You have the skill and the reputation," Madame Rousseau said. "It is time for you to take over completely. I am ready to rest." Katherine discussed it with Liam that night, worried about taking on such a big commitment. "What if I cannot make it work? What if I fail?" "You will not fail," Liam said with complete confidence. "You are the most talented seamstress in the territory, and everyone knows it. This is your dream, Katherine. We will make it work together." With his encouragement, Katherine accepted Madame Rousseau's offer. The transition took several months, but by the following spring, Katherine was the sole owner of what was now called Donnelly's Fine Dressmaking. She kept the shop open 3 days a week while working from home the other days, balancing her business with her marriage. It was challenging, managing both the shop and their home, but Katherine thrived on the work. Liam supported her every step of the way, often riding into town on the days she worked to have lunch with her, or help her close up the shop in the evenings. People in Hillsborough came to know them as a team, a couple who genuinely loved and supported each other. Their story, how Liam had found Katherine alone and baked her a birthday cake, became something of a local legend, told and retold as an example of Western chivalry and unexpected romance. In the spring of their 3rd year of marriage, Katherine realized she was pregnant. She told Liam one evening after dinner, unable to keep the secret even for a day. "Are you sure?" Liam asked, his eyes wide with wonder and a touch of fear. "As sure as I can be," Katherine said. "I have missed my monthly courses twice now, and I have been feeling sick in the mornings. I think we are going to have a baby, Liam." He let out a whoop of joy and picked her up, spinning her around despite her laughing protests. "We are going to be parents," he said, setting her down gently and placing his hand on her still flat stomach. "I am going to be a father." "Are you happy?" Katherine asked, needing to hear him say it. "Happy does not even begin to cover it," Liam said. Scared, excited, overwhelmed, all of those things. But most of all, so incredibly happy. The pregnancy progressed smoothly, and Katherine continued working at a reduced schedule through the summer. By autumn, her belly was round and prominent, and she had to stop working at the shop completely, though she still did some sewing at home. Liam was attentive to the point of being overprotective, constantly worried about Katherine overworking herself. She teased him about it, but secretly she loved how caring he was, how he would rub her swollen feet in the evenings and bring her whatever strange food combinations she was craving. They spent the long autumn evenings preparing for the baby, Liam building a cradle with his own hands while Katherine sewed tiny clothes and blankets. They talked about names and about what kind of parents they wanted to be. "I want our children to know they are loved," Katherine said one night as she embroidered a blanket. "I want them to grow up feeling safe and valued, the way I have felt with you." "They will," Liam promised. "Every single day, they will know how much we love them." The baby came in late November, just after their third wedding anniversary. Katherine's labor was long and difficult, lasting through the night and into the next day. Liam stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand and talking her through the pain. Finally, as the sun set on the second day, their son was born, squalling and red-faced and perfect. The midwife cleaned him up and placed him in Katherine's arms, and both parents stared at him in wonder. "He is beautiful," Katherine whispered, exhausted but radiant. "He is perfect," Liam agreed, touching his son's tiny hand with awe. "What should we name him?" They had discussed names for months, but had never quite decided. Now, looking at their son, Katherine said, "What about James? James Andrew Eckhart, after your father and mine." Liam felt tears prick his eyes. "James Andrew, I love it. I think our fathers would be honored." Baby James was a good baby, though he kept them up many nights with his crying. Liam discovered he had a knack for soothing the boy, walking him around the house in the wee hours while singing cowboy songs in a soft voice. Katherine would sometimes wake to find both her husband and son asleep in the rocking chair Liam had made, both of them peaceful in sleep. Being parents changed them, as it changes everyone, but it also brought them closer together. They were partners in this new adventure, supporting each other through the exhaustion and the worry and the overwhelming love they felt for their child. When James was 6 months old, Katherine returned to work part-time, bringing the baby with her to the shop. The women of Hillsborough cooed over him and often commissioned baby clothes along with their own dresses, delighted to have such a sweet model to design for. Life settled into a new rhythm, one that included late-night feedings and first smiles, and the constant wonder of watching their son grow and change. Their cattle operation continued to expand, and Katherine's business remained strong. They were not wealthy, but they were comfortable, and more importantly, they were happy. On Katherine's 27th birthday, James was 2.5 years old, an energetic toddler with his mother's dark hair and his father's gray eyes. Liam surprised Katherine by planning an entire day off for her, arranging for Rosa to watch James so they could spend the day together alone. They rode out to the line shack where they had first met, which was now part of their own property. Someone had maintained it over the years, and it stood solid and weatherproof, a monument to where their story had begun. "Can you believe it has been 6 years?" Katherine asked as they stood in the doorway, looking at the simple interior. "6 years since I found you sitting outside, crying on your birthday," Liam said. "6 years since I decided to bake a cake for a stranger and ended up finding my whole future." Katherine turned to him, taking both his hands in hers. "I have thought about that day so many times, how close I came to giving up completely. If you had not come along when you did, I do not know what would have happened to me." "You would have survived," Liam said firmly. "You are a survivor, Katherine. You always have been. But I am glad I was the one who got to help you, glad I was the one you let into your heart." "You make it sound like I had a choice," Katherine said with a laugh. "From the moment you said I deserved to celebrate my birthday, I was done for. No man had ever looked at me the way you did, like I mattered just for existing." "You do matter?" "No," Liam said seriously. "You matter more than anything in this world, to me and to James. We would be lost without you." They unpacked the picnic Liam had prepared and sat at the same table where they had shared that first cake. This year's cake, baked by Rosa with more skill than Liam's first attempt, was delicious, but they both agreed it was not as special as that original lopsided creation. "Do you remember what you said to me that night?" Katherine asked. "When I kissed your cheek?" "I said goodnight and thank you," Liam replied. "No, before that. You said maybe we met exactly when we were supposed to," Katherine reminded him. "I think about those words a lot. I think about how everything terrible that happened to me, all the loss and the heartbreak, led me to that wagon train. And that wagon train, as awful as those people were, led me to you. Like every step of my life was leading me to where I needed to be. I used to be angry about my parents dying," Liam admitted. "Angry at the world, at God, at everything. But if they had not died, I would not have ended up in New Mexico. I would not have been working for the Double T. I would not have been riding past that line shack on your birthday. So, maybe everything does happen for a reason, even when we cannot see it at the time. They spent the afternoon together, talking and laughing, and making love in the line shack where their romance had begun. It felt full circle somehow, a celebration not just of Catherine's birthday, but of everything they had built together. As the sun began to set, they rode back toward their home, and Katherine suddenly said, "I have something to tell you." Liam looked at her with concern. "What is it?" "I am pregnant again," Katherine said with a smile. "James is going to be a big brother." Liam let out another whoop of joy, just as he had the first time, and Katherine laughed at his enthusiasm. "You are happy then? Are you kidding? This is the best birthday news you could give me," Liam said. He rode up beside her so he could lean over and kiss her. "Another baby, another little person for us to love and raise. I could not be happier." Their second child, a daughter they named Sarah Grace, was born the following spring. She was quieter than James had been, a peaceful baby, with blonde hair that surprised them both, until Liam remembered his grandmother had been blonde. With 2 children, life became even busier, but they managed by continuing to work as a team. Liam took over more of the household chores when Katherine was overwhelmed, and Katherine made sure Liam had time to work with the cattle and maintain their property. The children grew, and the years passed in a blur of birthday parties and holidays, of first words and first steps, of scraped knees and childhood illnesses. Through it all, Liam and Katherine's love remained strong, a foundation upon which their entire family was built. James grew into a serious boy who loved working with his father, learning about cattle and horses. Sarah was more artistic, showing an early interest in fabrics and colors that delighted her mother. Watching their children discover who they were becoming was one of the greatest joys of Liam and Katherine's life. When James was 10 and Sarah was 7, Katherine became pregnant with their third child. This pregnancy was harder than the first 2, and Katherine had to stop working entirely for several months. Liam worried constantly, but Katherine assured him she was fine, just tired. Their third child, another son they named Thomas Henry, was born in the winter. The delivery was difficult, and afterward, the doctor told them gently that Katherine should not have any more children, as another pregnancy could be dangerous for her health. They accepted this news with mixed feelings. They would have liked a larger family, but 3 healthy children was already more than they had dared hope for when they started. And most importantly, Katherine was safe and healthy, which was what mattered most to Liam. Thomas was a handful from the beginning, a wild, energetic child who kept them all on their toes. He was fearless in a way that gave his parents heart attacks, climbing trees too high and riding horses too young. But he was also loving and affectionate, quick to hug and kiss his family. The children filled their house with noise and laughter and occasional tears. Liam found he loved being a father, loved teaching his sons to rope and ride, loved watching his daughter learn to sew beside her mother. Katherine thrived as a mother, patient and nurturing, while also expecting good behavior and respect. They made sure their children knew the story of how they met, how their father had found their mother alone on her birthday and baked her a cake. The children loved the story, asking for it again and again, especially on their parents' birthdays. On Katherine's 35th birthday, when James was 14, Sarah was 11, and Thomas was 4, the children surprised their parents by baking a cake themselves. It was lopsided and slightly burnt on one side, much like that first cake Liam had made, and Katherine burst into tears when she saw it. "It is perfect," she said, hugging all 3 children. "Absolutely perfect." "We wanted to make sure you knew you deserved to celebrate today," James said seriously, repeating the words his father had said so many years ago. "Just like Dad always says." Liam looked at his family gathered around the kitchen table, at his beautiful wife and their 3 amazing children, and felt his heart swell with gratitude. 19 years ago, he had been a lonely cowboy with no real purpose beyond the next day's work. Now, he had everything he had never known he wanted. That night, after the children were in bed, Liam and Katherine sat on their porch, watching the stars come out. Katherine leaned against him, and he wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "Have I told you lately that I love you?" Liam asked. "You tell me every day," Katherine replied, "but I never get tired of hearing it." "I love you," Liam said. "I love the life we have built together, the family we have created." When I think about that day I found you at the line shack, it feels like a dream, like it happened to someone else. How did I get so lucky?" "We both got lucky," Katherine corrected. "I got a husband who is kind and strong and loving. You got a wife who appreciates all those qualities. Our children got parents who love them unconditionally. That is not luck, Liam. That is us choosing each other every single day." "You are right," Liam agreed. "And I choose you today and every day for the rest of my life." "And I choose you," Katherine said, turning to kiss him softly. The years continued to pass, each one bringing new challenges and joys. James grew into a young man and started courting the daughter of a neighboring rancher. Sarah developed into a talented seamstress, helping her mother in the shop and dreaming of expanding the business. Thomas eventually calmed down enough to become a reliable helper around the ranch. Liam's hair started showing threads of silver, and Katherine developed laugh lines around her eyes. They wore these signs of aging proudly, evidence of a life well lived together. On their 25th wedding anniversary, the children threw them a party, inviting everyone from town and the surrounding ranches. Wade Morris, now retired but still sharp as ever, gave a toast. "I remember when Liam came to me about a woman he had found stranded at a line shack," Wade said. "I remember thinking he had lost his mind, getting so involved with a stranger. But Liam had a good heart, and he knew what he was doing, even if he did not realize it at the time. He had found his future, and he was smart enough not to let it slip away. Here is to Liam and Katherine, proof that love and kindness can create something beautiful." Everyone raised their glasses and cheered. Liam stood, pulling Katherine up with him. "I want to say something too," he said, waiting for the room to quiet down. 25 years ago, I made the best decision of my life. I saw a woman who needed help, and instead of riding past like I easily could have done, I stopped. I baked her a birthday cake in a line shack with borrowed supplies and no real skills. It was lopsided and probably not very good, but it was made with good intentions. That cake, that single act of kindness, led to this. He gestured around the room at their family and friends. It led to a marriage beyond my wildest dreams, to 3 incredible children, to a life I never imagined I could have. So, I want to thank Katherine for taking a chance on a cowboy who could barely bake, for seeing past the rough exterior to the man underneath, for building this life with me day by day and year by year. He turned to Katherine, taking her hands. "You deserve to celebrate today and every day. I love you more now than I did 25 years ago. And I will love you even more 25 years from now, if we are blessed with that much time." There was not a dry eye in the room by the time he finished. Katherine kissed him to the sound of applause and cheers, and the party continued into the night. As they got ready for bed that evening, exhausted but happy, Katherine said, "You know what I think about sometimes? I think about all the women on that wagon train who believed Thomas Pritchard's lies about me. I wonder where they ended up, whether they ever thought about the woman they left behind." "Does it bother you still?" Liam asked, concerned. "No," Katherine said immediately. "If anything, I feel grateful to them. If they had not abandoned me, I never would have been sitting at that line shack. You never would have found me. We never would have had all of this. So, in a strange way, their cruelty led to my happiness." "That is a very generous way to look at it," Liam observed. "I learned from the best," Katherine said, smiling at him. "You taught me that kindness and generosity can change lives. Now I try to pass that lesson on to our children, to show them that how you treat people matters, that small acts of compassion can have huge impacts." "I think we did a good job with them," Liam said. "They are good kids, growing into good adults." "Because they have a good father," Katherine said, "and hopefully a decent mother too." "The best mother," Liam corrected. They climbed into bed, the same bed they had shared for 25 years, and held each other close. Outside, the New Mexico night was quiet except for the sound of crickets and the distant howl of a coyote. Inside, everything was warm and safe and full of love. The next decade brought changes, as all decades do. James married his sweetheart and started a family of his own, building a house on a corner of Liam and Katherine's land. Sarah eventually moved to Santa Fe to open her own dress shop, though she visited often and always for holidays. Thomas, surprising everyone, showed an interest in books and studying, eventually heading east to attend college. Liam and Katherine became grandparents 5 times over through James's children, and they delighted in spoiling the grandchildren the way they had never quite let themselves spoil their own kids. Their hair turned completely gray, and their bodies moved a little slower, but their love remained as strong as ever. On Catherine's 50th birthday, Liam woke her before dawn, just as he had done so many years ago. She protested sleepily, but he insisted, helping her dress warmly against the cool morning air. He led her outside to where 2 horses stood saddled and waiting. "Where are we going?" Katherine asked, but she was smiling, trusting him completely. "You will see," Liam said mysteriously. They rode out as the sun came up, painting the sky in shades of her pink and gold. Liam led them to the line shack, and as they approached, Katherine gasped. The shack had been completely renovated, the roof repaired and the walls freshly whitewashed. Flower boxes hung under the windows, bright with blooms. "What did you do?" Katherine asked in wonder. "I have been working on it for months," Liam admitted. "I wanted to restore the place where our story began. Make it beautiful the way you have made my life beautiful." He helped her dismount and open the door. Inside, the simple furniture had been replaced with nicer pieces. There was a real bed with a quilted coverlet, a table with matching chairs, and a small stove that looked brand new. On the table sat a cake, clearly homemade, with candles already lit. "Happy birthday," Liam said softly. "I wanted to bring us back to where it all started, to remind you of what that day meant to both of us." Katherine walked into the shack, tears streaming down her face. "I cannot believe you did all this." "I wanted you to have a place that was just ours," Liam explained. "Somewhere we could come and remember, somewhere quiet and peaceful. I thought maybe we could spend more time here as we get older, away from the noise and bustle." "It is perfect," Katherine said, turning to embrace him. "You are perfect. I love you so much, Liam Eckhart." "And I love you, Katherine Eckhart," he replied, "now and forever, until my last breath." They spent the day at the line shack, just the 2 of them, talking and laughing and reminiscing about their 29 years together. They ate the cake Liam had baked, which was much better than his first attempt, but still not quite as good as a professional baker's. "I have been practicing," Liam said when Katherine complimented the cake. "I wanted to get it right this time." "Every cake you have ever baked for me has been right," Katherine said, "because they were made with love, and that is all that matters." As the sun began to set, they sat on the porch of the renovated line shack, holding hands and watching the light fade from the sky. Katherine thought about that frightened, heartbroken girl she had been 29 years ago, sitting in almost this exact spot and thinking her life was over. She could never have imagined the life that was waiting for her, the love that would find her in her darkest moment. "Thank you," she said to Liam, "for stopping that day, for not riding past, for baking me a cake and telling me I deserved to celebrate. Thank you for every day since then." "Thank you for letting me love you," Liam replied, "for trusting me when you had every reason not to trust anyone, for building this life with me. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Katherine. You always will be." They rode home as the stars came out, tired but content. Their children and grandchildren were waiting with another celebration, another cake, more presents and laughter and love. But Katherine would always treasure those quiet hours at the line shack, alone with the man who had saved her life by believing she deserved kindness. It was not the grand gesture or the expensive gift that mattered. It was the consistent daily choice to love and be loved, to support and be supported, to build something together that was greater than either of them alone. Years continued to pass. Liam and Katherine grew old together with grace and gratitude. Their children and grandchildren thrived, building lives and families of their own. The ranch prospered under James's management when Liam finally retired completely. Sarah's dress shop in Santa Fe became famous throughout the territory. Thomas returned from college as a teacher and opened a school in Hillsboro, dedicated to educating children who might otherwise have no opportunity to learn. On Katherine's 60th birthday, the entire family gathered at the ranch house for a massive celebration. There were dozens of people present: children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, friends, and neighbors. A band played, and tables groaned under the weight of food. As Katherine looked around at everything they had built, everyone who was there because she and Liam had chosen to love each other, she felt overwhelmed with emotion. Liam found her standing alone for a moment, watching the festivities with tears in her eyes. "Are you all right?" he asked, concerned. "More than all right," Katherine said. "I am just thinking about how lucky I am, how blessed we have been." "We have had a good life," Liam agreed. He was 73 now, his movements slow and careful, but his eyes were still sharp and his love still strong. A very good life. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you had ridden past that day?" Katherine asked. "If you had decided my problems were not your concern?" "Never," Liam said firmly. "From the moment I saw you, I knew I could not leave you there. It was not even a decision I had to think about. It was just what I had to do." "My hero," Katherine said softly, and though she was teasing, there was deep truth in the words. "Your husband," Liam corrected. "Your partner, your friend, your love. All the things that matter more than being a hero." That night, after everyone had gone home and they were alone in their bedroom, they lay together in the darkness, holding hands as they had done for 43 years. "Liam," Katherine said softly, "are you awake?" "I am now," he replied with gentle amusement. "What is it?" "I just wanted to tell you one more time how grateful I am, how much I love you, how glad I am that I was sitting at that line shack on my 23rd birthday." "And I am glad I was the one who found you," Liam said. "You made my life worth living, Katherine. Everything good I have, everything I am, it all traces back to that day when I decided to bake a cake for a stranger." "I was not a stranger for long," Katherine pointed out. "No," Liam agreed. "You became the center of my world pretty much immediately." They fell asleep like that, hands clasped, hearts at peace, secure in the knowledge that they had lived a life full of meaning and love. Liam passed away in his sleep at the age of 81, 8 years after that last big birthday celebration. He had been working in the garden that day, supervising while James's son repaired a fence. He came in for dinner, ate heartily, made love to Katherine with the sweet familiarity of 58 years together, and simply did not wake up the next morning. Katherine grieved deeply, but not desperately. She knew she had been blessed beyond measure to have so many years with him, to have loved and been loved so completely. She took comfort in their children and grandchildren, in the life they had built together that would continue long after both of them were gone. She lived another 7 years, remaining sharp and active until the end. She worked in her garden, made quilts for her great-great-grandchildren, and spent long afternoons at the line shack Liam had restored, remembering. On her 67th birthday, surrounded by more family than she could count, Katherine told the story one more time of how Liam had found her alone and baked her a cake, how he had told her she deserved to celebrate. The younger generations had heard it before, but they listened with rapt attention anyway, understanding that this story was their legacy, the foundation upon which their entire family was built. "The lesson," Katherine said, her voice still strong despite her advanced age, "is that kindness matters, that taking the time to see someone, really see them and their worth, can change everything. Your grandfather could have ridden past that day. Nobody would have blamed him for staying out of my troubles. But he did not. He stopped and he helped. And he made sure I knew I mattered. That is the greatest gift anyone ever gave me. And it is the gift I hope all of you give to others throughout your lives." She passed away peacefully 3 weeks later, in the same bed where she had slept with Liam for almost 6 decades. Her children found her with a smile on her face, and they knew she had gone to join the man who had been her partner, her love, her everything. They buried her next to Liam on the hill overlooking their land, the place where the line shack still stood as a monument to where their story began. The marker read simply, "Katherine Donnelly Eckhart, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, she deserved to celebrate every day." Years later, descendants still told the story of how Liam and Katherine met, how their great-great-grandfather had found their great-great-grandmother alone on her birthday and baked her a cake in a line shack. The story became part of family lore, passed down through generations as a reminder of the power of compassion and the unexpected ways that love can find us. The line shack stood for another 100 years, maintained by generations of the Eckhart family as a historical site. People would visit it, walk through the small rooms, and imagine that day in 1881, when a lonely cowboy had decided to show kindness to a stranger, never knowing it would change both their lives forever. And on quiet nights, when the wind blew across the New Mexico plains, people swore they could hear laughter coming from the direction of the line shack, the sound of two souls who had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful together, a love that transcended time and death, a story that would never be forgotten.